Hey, welcome back. Nice to see you. Today I want to dive deeper into how optimization actually leads to boredom. There's this thought that keeps coming into my head about everybody trying to optimize their lives, optimize work, and then I thought, what happens when we reach that? And my only conclusion that I can think of right now is boredom. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into it. Today we're going to cover the quick, what is optimization, the quick history of optimization, not a scholarly one, just what makes us humans imperfections. So what are we removing or what are we adding to optimize something? The downfall of optimization, how productivity breeds boredom, and what's so productive about boredom. You kind of hear all these people talking about boredom and how you can achieve more by doing less. It's kind of this juxtaposition kind of thing. What did I write here? I don't even know what I wrote here. It's kind of like optimization is the opposite of imperfections. And my final thoughts. What is the goal of optimization? It's to solve a problem. It's to iron out insufficiencies, it's to make maximum output, it's to improve something really. So my other question is, where do we stop optimizing? What is the ideal world self work where it's completely and utterly 100% optimized? What do we leave alone? What defines the perfect optimization system? And what is not needed to achieve optimization? These are the questions I kind of want to ask and find out. So let's dive into what is optimization. You might be aware of this trend around optimization in the forms of health, work, productivity, systems, journaling, like learning something, learning code, all these things like the 8 hours. People are optimizing their sleep, getting up early, doing the hard task first, removing distractions, saving time, planning, like yearly planning, weekly planning, monthly planning, daily planning, creating some sort of system to optimize. But when we dive just a little bit deeper and go beyond, like just below the surface of optimization and all these trends and people talking about them, what are they actually talking about? They're talking about it's always related to work. It's always related to e-commerce. It's always related to some sort of financial exchange. And I found that kind of weird. Like, the reason we optimize isn't for us, it's for obtaining a monetary value of some sort.
The main reason why I'm able to do as much as I do is because I value efficiency more than anything else in the world, and I just realized that made me sound really psychotic. But in all honesty, I am always prioritizing efficiency, which is why I'm able to have a demanding job like strategy consulting and still have a content business where I upload almost every day. And then it's also why I did all these things during uni as well without really breaking too much of a sweat. So let me tell you guys all the things that I do that keep me efficient. First things first, I am always multitasking.
Okay. So just a thought. Who benefits from you doing all these things? All these things. You have to do all these things. Who's benefiting from that?
Even though, yes, you can achieve your goals through willpower and discipline, there is an alternate option, and that is to optimize your life to make it easier for you to be successful. So here's some things that you can implement if you want to be able to optimize your life. First is building your non-negotiables. These are the habits that you implement in your life that allow you to run an effective system. So there are several non-negotiables that you can implement.
Okay, so she literally said her life system. So treating yourself as like a business, a robot really. So my funny thing is no one is optimizing reading fiction. No one's optimizing watching a movie. No one's optimizing going to the opera or the theater. But when people talk about optimization, they talk about meal plans, workouts, calendar schedule, journaling, note-taking. It's all related to work. It's all related to income. It's all related to financial status. But at the same time, the more you work, the lower your pay. So let's just say, you work you get a yearly salary and you work 9 to 5. As soon as you go over that 9 to 5, you're lowering your income because you're working more and getting paid less because, it's just a weird thing to like optimize and do all these things, not actually live. You're just constantly trying to hustle get more money. Anyway, I found it interesting that no one's optimizing the things that bring us joy in life. Optimizing revolves around schedules of one's life. When we look at it, optimizing is focused on the individual. It's always about the individual. It's not about it's just literally about you, the person. How can you produce more to help the economy, really?
I learned this thing from game design. Players will actually optimize the fun out of a game, so you need to like guard against that. I feel like anxieties can actually often, I guess, optimize the fun out of life when you're...
Yeah, so like this idea that you're playing a game, so you want to optimize it so you can get all the loot or the money or the resources, and you've optimized it so much that you're no longer playing. And the same with life. As soon as you optimize anything, I reckon this would happen too, that you'd become bored because you'd have no thing to strive for. Why do I need to utilize every single waking moment of my life? Why do I have to do that? Why do I need to do all these tasks and these little things all the time? Time is money. Your value is determined by your output, what you give back to the economy, and for most of us, we sell our time to make an income. So this idea of optimizing and using every waking moment you have to make and extract as much value as you can is kind of this thing that's happening. We're getting this desperation because it's so hard to make a living. And a little quick history of optimization. Think about it like old school farming back in the day, like working the fields, everything by hand, took quite a while. And then the Industrial Revolution came along and machines did a majority of that work. And labor was replaced with machines. And the craftsmen kind of died, like skills got lost because they were no longer needed. And the only people who really benefited from the Industrial Revolution were the people who owned the machines, the factories. They reaped the rewards, not the workers. Now we're moving on to the think economy and using computers and like sitting in your office, emailing everybody and all that kind of thing. And computers have made us so much more productive. Now we're coming into the age of AI where the machines can think faster than us. And now we're losing jobs to AI. And creativity is now dying, and the only thing that's kind of surviving is a bit of taste or editing kind of stuff. And if you think about it, who's gonna benefit from this? Like, it's this circle, it's repeating history. It's kind of interesting just to think about it a little.
Trends on the internet right now, like maxing or just being performative or biohacking, even though these do not share any of the same like aesthetics or even the same politics, they are all symptoms of the same thing, which is optimization culture. And optimization culture is very much rooted in late stage capitalism and also is a byproduct of the economic precarity that we are currently in. And this is what I talk about this week.
So like throughout history, work has been optimized and optimized again and again. And the people who benefit from optimization are the owners of the companies, the machines, the services, not the workers. Optimizing everything out, what is that essentially? Like every time we think of optimization, every time we think about a revolution or like the Industrial Revolution, the Internet Revolution, and now soon the AI Revolution, what's getting ironed out every time? And you think about it, it's us, it's people, it's humans. No longer need a farmer, a factory can, like a machine can do it. No longer need people to make sewing and all that kind of thing. A machine can do it. No longer need to think anymore. AI can do it. It's just this weird thing that keeps happening.
I've spent thousands of hours obsessing over time management systems, trying to unlock the productivity secrets of the world's most effective people. And it was always about adding more. Waking up at 5 a.m., timing every second of my day, tracking everything in color-coded calendars. I read all the books, tried the tools, and tested the systems. But none of it solved my problem with time. The harder I worked, the further away I felt from the life I wanted.
Yeah, so this idea of optimization is actually just adding more. Extracting every little waking moment of your day to produce something. So like we are imperfect. We're not robots. We're not binary code. We're not a machine. We are humans. We are not a conveyor belt. We are not a Fortune 500 company. And any job that removes the thought process and services and efficiency removes the humanity from a job. So as soon as you think about optimization, you're removing the person. And when you're removing the person, you're kind of removing the humanity. And it just becomes a robotic system, really. It's just like A to B, no real thought, no variation, no slight imperfections that create beauty. It becomes stale and boring, really.
Chess games that have the highest demand are one human versus another, because when a computer plays a computer, the moves are predictable and they're the same and they're perfect. But it's the human error of two human chess players who are worse, objectively worse,
Yeah.
that makes it so fascinating.
It's the imperfections that make it interesting. It's the flaws that make it characteristics. Once something's absolutely perfect, there's no character there. It's just perfect. Like, okay, nothing to add, nothing to take away, nothing to talk about, really. So, like, think about, like, sitting in a park and watching people walk by and listening to birds. Isn't the most optimal time use of your time. You're literally just sitting there and time is going past while you're listening to birds, watching people walk past, and you're relaxing, kind of thing. That is a really unoptimized, unproductive use of your time when it comes to this optimizing culture of, helping the economy and producing wealth and all that kind of thing. And if we think about it, that's the human experience. Like, remove that, what's the point in being human? Just to consume, to produce? Like, where's the time where you can relax and take note of what's happening around you? Be in the moment, And I found that that's what makes us human, is those imperfections, is enjoying the time we have. Rather than working all the time, sitting and reading a book, talking to a friend, like a useless conversation that's not about being productive or producing something or building something. You're literally just, talking for the hell of it and enjoying each other's company. That is so human. When it doesn't, as soon as you think of like, I need to make this super productive, and you think about all these like super hustle, hardcore people, I don't think many of them have like deep, meaningful relationships, because it's always about extraction. When we optimize, what are we improving and what are we removing to achieve that?
This is my sleep routine for someone with an almost perfect sleep score, 95, and just for the record, Aura doesn't let you get 100. So the first thing that I do is
She is talking about optimizing sleep. This is so dystopian. The fact that we have to even optimize shutting our eyes and going to bed. What? Like, why? You just go to bed, have a dream, wake up. Why do you need to optimize this? This feels really, really creepy. And when we think about it, this obsession with optimization is tied to someone's self-worth. It's tied to their work output. It's tied to their job. Their main part of their identity would probably be what they're working on. And they find joy in optimization. They find meaning and purpose in this optimizing, like tracking my sleep schedule, checking what I eat, like tracking all these things. And again, why? What's the point of this? What are you chasing? Is this a great life? Is this considered a wonderful, good life, to be constantly tracking every single thing you're doing and extracting everything you can out of every waking moment? My guess is you're chasing assets, money, status. Like, what are you chasing? And is that meaningful? I read this book, I can't even say the title, was super intense philosophy book, Politics, Neoliberalism, and the New Technologies of Power. When the data collected is published and exchanged, self-tracking comes to resemble self-surveillance more and more. The subject of today's world is an entrepreneur of the self-practicing self-exploitation, and by the same token, self-surveillance. This idea that optimization is actually exploiting yourself. You are extracting as much as you can out of your life to produce just assets and wealth. That is like the main goal, the main purpose when I think about it. That's kind of like capitalism. Like capitalism is to extract as much as you can from the resources and make as much wealth as you can and keep growing exponentially forever. And the idea of capitalism, like the goal of capitalism, is to accumulate so much wealth that you no longer have to be part of capitalism in the system. It's kind of this weird thing. The idea of capitalism, and to win capitalism, is to no longer need to work, which is essentially escaping capitalism. It's just such a weird thought. So what's the downfall of optimization? So because we have a world full of knowledge at our fingertips, we take that for granted. and we no longer use our brains or our bodies for a certain task anymore. Think of like the calculator and how we don't need to think about math problems as much anymore. Or think about the navigation or GPS in your phone or device. You no longer have to use, reading night star navigation technology to find out where you are going. And because of this technology, we've made our lives easier, and in doing so have removed those skills and those needs and that muscle memory. So when a new technology comes along, it removes something that we used to do and it's no longer needed because we've replaced it with that technology. So what will happen when we no longer have to think? I believe we will become more and more mob mentality, more like pack animals, following the herd, less thought, more emotional reactions to whatever's happening in the world or to us or our friends or family, and we will become more like the dodo bird if are not careful. And this idea of like removing our own thoughts and processes and coming up with ideas really scares me quite a bit actually. So instead of doing more and like constantly optimizing and doing as much as you can, I think we should just do a little bit less. And like instead of outsourcing everything to making our lives easier, maybe we should actually use our bodies and our brains a bit more. And like think, listen, write, contemplate, argue, debate, learn, unlearn, challenge thing. All these things are creations rather than consumption, rather than mindless consumerism when you think about it. So instead of doing more, do a little bit less. And actually when I mean more, I mean like you don't have to use every waking moment of your day to create capital. You can just sit there in boredom and maybe you'll get a good idea or something.
The problem with being unproductive, at least according to science, is that it's kind of awesome for you. This sounds lazy and irresponsible, and definitely not what the internet, your parents, boss or teachers want you to hear. But if we're going to talk about it, we might as well be honest. We're constantly taught that working hard, pushing forward, and doing everything we can is the answer to success in life. But have you ever noticed that sometimes the harder you try, the worse things get? When you think about it, this problem shows up everywhere in your life. You stay up late, lying in bed, desperately trying to fall asleep, but the harder you try, the more awake you are.
So this leads us to boredom, because if everything we do has been optimized and perfected, we essentially have removed all human insufficiencies from the process and are no longer needed really. We are no longer needed. Everything is super efficient. We can just sit back and it can just do its thing. And when we are no longer needed, we have nothing to do. Ergo, you become bored. So perfection is boring. Something that has no flaws, has no character. Something with no imperfection is kind of plain if you think about it, and is a copy, and it's just without any character or anything of interest when something is absolutely perfect. It's boring.
Perfection is boring. It is boring. It's sterile. There's no grit. There's nothing to grasp onto. There's no humanity there. That's boring. That's boring. And I feel like I've watered myself down over the years because I'm so scared. And it's like, that's so fucking boring. That's so boring. And so I'm trying to stop with my perfectionism because I feel like it's making me boring.
So productivity removes wasted time, which can be a good thing. Think about the washing machine, dishwasher, transportation, planes, the wonderful beverage can creation. Think of ink pens, that kind of thing. There are so many technologies and objects in the world that have made us more efficient and have saved us time. Many of these tasks are mundane things that we have optimized because the tasks themselves were boring and time consuming for most of us. A few people out there enjoy doing those things, and you have removed them and they're no longer needed. So that person's purpose, that person's enjoyment has gone, which is really sad. When we think about optimization, we're removing a human aspect, and some people enjoyed doing that. So you've removed that person's need to help their their community essentially.
In today's world, the second you feel a hint of boredom, you grab your phone. We kind of treat boredom as if it's something to fix. But what if I tell you that boredom is actually the starting point of creativity? Neuroscience tells us that when your mind enters a bored state, it actually starts wondering. It makes unusual connections, explores abstract ideas, and imagines new possibilities. When you're bored, you give your brain time and space to actually think. But if you constantly interrupt that silence with stimulation, TikTok, Netflix, Instagram, podcast, music, your brain never gets a chance to create. You're kind of numbing your brain instead of using it. I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah, I find that so true. We need to slow down and stop optimizing everything. We don't have to do everything 24/7. Think about like painting a portrait. You might find that painting a portrait by hand has value or no value. Now replace that with a camera. Now again, some people might find value in getting a professional portrait taken, and some people might not. Now let's change that with image generation. You might find value in it, someone else might not. But the one thing that you can't argue is that one takes substantially more time and the other one takes way less. One requires skill and craftsmanship, one just requires you to type in a prompt. And when things take less and less time, they become less and less valuable by the market standard. And when that happens, the value goes down and accessibility goes up because everyone can do it now. And that's a good thing. But at the same time, easily accessible outputs create saturation, and with saturation, normality and the predictable results happen, which gives rise to boredom. Think of like AI slop. That is just hugely on the rise because it's so accessible, so everyone's just pumping it out, and the value of that content is just plummeting because no one really cares, no one wants it, it's too easy, it's saturating everything. So predictability, normality, and perfection equals boredom. And like what we saw before, what's so productive about being bored? Now, what is the opposite of productivity? And that is inefficiencies.
This is me staring at a wall. And believe it or not, this helped me have one of the most productive weeks of my life. But the trick doesn't actually have much to do with the wall. It's the fact that I'm not doing something else. I'm not scrolling on my phone or checking my email. Instead, I'm just sitting here, either working on the task at hand or doing nothing. This is the first rule.
So this is like, again, staring at a wall has a purpose, and that intent is to optimize. So again, we are optimizing boredom to be more productive. It's kind of crazy.
To get out of the brain fog and the overstimulation is to let yourself get bored again, which takes a phenomenal degree of courage. I just want to let you know, like, it's not easy to do this, but if you treat yourself like a writer, it becomes more interesting. Neil Gaiman is the author of Coraline, American Gods, The Graveyard Book, a number of other really successful novels, and his routine is he takes a notebook, a physical notebook, and a pen, and he sits outside or somewhere quiet, and he lets himself get bored. His rule for himself is he doesn't have to write, but he can't do anything but write. So he allows himself to become bored, to become understimulated, to the point that he actually wants to put something down.
So when I say insufficiencies, I mean the intent of not producing something. So drawing to draw, not to sell it on Etsy. Reading a book, not to learn, but to enjoy the author's work. You know, walking through an art gallery to get emotion and feeling from the artwork. Sitting in the park with the friends to connect with them and have meaningful and joyful conversations. Doing something for the act of doing it, not for the output or the reward, but the act itself, you know what I mean? So like walking without headphones so you can hear and appreciate the sounds around you and give your brain a little bit of a rest.
Everyone is optimizing. Better morning routine, better diet, better sleep stack, better productivity system, and it's working. You're doing more than ever, but you feel worse than ever. The missing variable isn't another input, it's the absence of input. Raw dogging boredom is the most productive thing you can do with your unproductive time. Not because nothing is happening, but because you finally give room for your brain to cook.
So these people that are optimizing boredom, like, I feel like we need to not do that. I think we need to enjoy our time, like lying on a bed and just listening to a record. You know, enjoying the moments without craving or needing to give input to the economy and increase your net worth. Stop, have moments where you can actually be a human, be in the moment, enjoying your life because it's happening right now, rather than thinking about how you can optimize again and again and squeeze out all this time and get as much value as you can out of your waking moments. So when you're resting, when you stop doing things, your brain is actually making stronger connections between what's happened throughout your day or what you've just learned. And the resting state can also be a creative time, like we've seen in the previous videos about how you're making all these connections and coming up with new ideas and solving problems. So being bored helps you process and understand yourself, your thoughts, your memories, and it also helps with ideas and problem solving. So even boredom has been optimized for productivity. Optimization is fundamentally opposed to imperfections. It's imperfections that make us and the world beautiful. It's our flaws that make us human. Without issues, without problems, without something to strive for, to challenge or obsess over, or an obstacle to overcome, life becomes stale, void of meaning and purpose, and ends up like an axiom passenger. It's through hardship, struggle that gives meaning to a task, and meaning can give our lives purpose. When optimization removes obstacles and gets straight to the finish line, extracts every single waking moment we have for productivity, it removes, I don't think accumulation is wealth. I think being able to sit somewhere and choose how you spend your time and enjoying your time is wealth.
The wealthy have more free time than ever, while the working class have less. For most of history, free time was something the masses were given and the wealthy chose. The workers stopped when the factory closed, the wealthy stopped when they wanted to. Then survival got more expensive than one job could cover. Half of Gen Z now has a side hustle, not by choice, but to survive. The new status symbol isn't a watch or a car. It's the ability to decide, without consequence, how your hours are spent. To ignore your phone, skip the meeting, take the afternoon off because you can afford to. And here's the insight that most brands are missing.
So just this idea of now if we think about it, the world is abundant, you can have access to any knowledge, products, anything, you can buy pretty much anything. Having your own autonomy over your time is wealth. That's like I said before, that's the reason for capitalism, to escape it, so you can choose what you do with your time. You don't need much money to have more time. You just have to give up other luxuries, like not being able to buy or have a phone, or access to certain things, or going to parties, or buying the newest whatever. If you push that away, you might actually have more time to enjoy other things that give your life meaning, purpose, enjoyment. So I want to get to my final thoughts, but I believe that it's the journey, the struggle, the act of doing that gives meaning. That is where we live our lives, in the struggle, in the imperfections. And it's when we mess up, it's when things don't go right, that we create these memories. And it's in those moments of sharing, teaching, and learning, not obtaining a 4% bump in your salary or paycheck, but it's the struggle, the going through something, sharing. Struggle gives something, it gives meaning, it equals purpose. And I believe that the meaning to life is to enjoy and find contentment in the passage of time. And you can control that by choosing not to chase the rat race and optimizing your whole entire life. So don't optimize your life, live it instead. You know what I mean? So catch you in the next one.